Hey, everybody out there on YouTube. Welcome to the show. This is the pre-show, the show cocktail hour. I'm Jay, that's Aaron.
Hello.
And that's Tony.
Hello.
Hello, lovelies.
And we are the Cherry Tomato Boys. We're talking about Mr. and Mrs. Smith today. We've gathered here for the pre-show cocktail hour. I am sipping on a gin and tonic.
Oh,
Snoop Doggy Dogg. You need to get a job.
that's close.
Very close. I've swapped out the traditional lime for a nice slice of lemon, which I'm enjoying quite a lot. I made some homemade gyros today.
Ooh, lamb
nice.
or what?
I did half lamb, half beef. And then the recipe that I use calls for you mix in a little bit of bacon, too, just to make sure that does have some fat content.
Is it halal?
Well, that sounds delicious. Did you make your own tzatziki?
I did. Yes.
Wow, dang.
Nice.
Yeah. For that one, the worst part is you gotta grate and then strain the cucumbers. And it's just kind of tedious, but like that's what gives it that like delicious like freshness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sounds like you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
Better or worse than a doner kebab off the street?
Oh, well, I struggle to get the texture correct, where every time that I've made it, it comes out kind of crumblier than I want it to be, like closer to kafta or like something just like some ground beef,
Like ground
rather
beef.
than yeah, exactly, rather than the more like it's hard to find a word for it that's not gross because
Rather than the
meat
shaved
log,
meat.
Shaved meat.
yeah.
Meat shavings.
The meat shavings. I mean, that's what it is. It's like wood shavings, but it's meat shavings. Like I was going to ask you, I was like, did you form it into a meat log and then roast it over a fire and then shave it off so that you could have your gyro? Or did you just kind of do it all in a pan?
Call it
No,
meat
that's exactly what I
shrapnel.
did.
That sounds a little bit more manly.
No,
I feel like there has to be an explosion for it to be shrapnel. Like it's you're definitely shaving the meat. At least every video I've ever seen.
no, that's exactly what I do. I you take the ground meat and you mix it up with the spices, and then you put it in a blender with some onions, and then you blend it until it's like a paste, and then you form that into a log. And then if you have a rotisserie, then you can put it on there. I'm not quite that
fancy.
lucky. Yeah. So what I do is I stick skewers like you do like shish kebabs on the grill. I've got these nice long metal skewers, and you wrap the meat log in foil. You stick the skewers through, and then you set that onto a baking pan that's got the sides that come up, and then you put that all in the oven.
Oh, it's elevated off the skewers.
So then the next question is, like, are you using like your face razor to shave your beef, or you got yourself a meat shaver?
No, that's I just use a knife, just like a chef's
okay.
knife.
I mean,
that's what
but that
about,
might
like,
be the problem. You got to get you a meat shaver. You know, an authentic Euro meat shaver
Get
is
the
what you
old
need to invest
school.
in.
Did you ever make your own cheese slices with that little device? It was like basically like
Oh,
a skinny
yeah.
wire with a roller below it, and you just kind of like slid it down the side of a block of cheese.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
See, if I was able to get the texture right, then that's exactly the kind of thing that I want to be using. But I haven't quite been able to get it to come out like that yet. But it's getting better each time.
I feel also though in the Euro restaurants they shave it off and then they like fry it up again. So
So good, so good. When we all retire to Greece together, we can have them on the daily.
We can have like the show island.
Yeah.
all the hummus you can eat.
So when you get like the thing of hummus and it's got, you know, whatever in the center, whether it's like the pine nuts or sometimes it's like roasted red pepper, or, you know, sometimes it's just some olive oil. Are you the type that you leave that in the center and then like kind of like apportion it with each dip of the pita? Or are you the type that likes to mix it all up from the get-go?
Mix. Definitely. Like, I get the supremely spicy Sabra hummus, like, frequently.
Yeah.
And that one, like, it's a full blend. You want every bit of that spicy mixture mixed throughout it. But at the restaurant, like where they have the olive oil, it's a little bit more like you kind of, like, dip it from the middle and drag up some of that olive oil with you. So, but that's just because I feel like olive oil is not the same as like the roasted red pepper or the pine nuts. It's just kind of like an additive. And so you're just kind of, it's usually like what, paprika and olive oil on top?
Yeah, you can get creative.
One singular black olive. That's the question. Who gets the black olive? Nobody I know likes black olives but me, so I always get it.
See, that's a mark that you're hanging out with the right people, that you've got like that balance there where you're the one who gets the olive.
She hates olives. Awesome.
The olive theory.
Tony, are you a hummus guy?
Yeah, I'm out of my element, so I'm sitting here quietly. I don't know if I've ever had hummus.
92 years old, and she never tried pesto.
I've seen it close to my person, but I don't know if I've ever partaken in the hummus.
It's basically Greek bean dip, right? Like, that's all it is.
I'm willing to try.
It's delicious.
Jay will tell you, I try crazy shit if the occasion calls for it.
You love bean dip? You try bean dip? Is that what you're saying?
I do like bean dip.
It's hard to find good Greek food, in my opinion, around here. Like, there's a few good spots, but most of the fast food stuff kind of is meh. Like, I like Little Greek. It'll do, but honestly, like, I like the flaming cheese over off of Greenville way better. Hashtag not sponsored. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys ready to get into Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Let's do
Absolutely.
Previously on the show.
I like seeing my little voice waves on here.
But I think we've got to talk about the finale.
What the fuck did I just watch?
Have you ever, as a test of strength, drinking hot Diet Coke? That stuff burns.
Anytime that I go back and drink a Diet Coke because it's the only thing available, I'm like, why did we collectively as a society accept this drink existence? Like why were we like, you know what? Yeah, this kind of tastes nothing like Coke at all. So let's all call it Diet Coke. This seems like a good choice.
Tony, what you been doing?
I have not been doing much except for play Pal World.
Oh, hell yeah.
And with a little bit of media attention and some flipped houses, you can totally change the narrative. Because, I mean, Aaron and I were in Waco in the early aughts, and it was a completely different town than it is now.
Yeah, no, it was much sleepier, and it was a lot easier to get through the fast food.
Who do you think put the chicken in the bathroom?
But see, like, you heard screaming all the way up, and it's like, oh, now I know what the screaming is about. Turkey.
Put that in the pre-show show.
No.
And it is Mr. and Miss Smith.
Oh, my, it's been a minute since I've won one, actually.
Childish Gambino.
We'll see if it's any good. I like the movie.
I remember the movie being a fun time.
It's a fun time.
That's what I remember, so I can only imagine this is also going to be a fun time.
Hi, and welcome to the show, probably the world's best TV review podcast. Warmest greetings, and welcome to episode 67. Here today, we review the 2024 Amazon Prime spy action romance series created by Francesca Sloan and Donald Glover. Did he just drop a stick of dynamite? This time on the show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'd like to welcome you inside the broadcast booth. I'm Jay. I'm joined as always by my two Hall of Famers. To my left, the man who paid my ransom in the Dolomites, it's Aaron.
Hey now.
And to my other left, the Sotheby's agent, thirsty for the listing to the show Safe House, it's Tony.
Gonna sell the shit out of this Moby D.
Here at the show 100% customer satisfaction is our holy grail. We want to hear from you. Check out our Instagram for news about the show, including our postponed 2025 tour, convention, and cruise, along with plenty of other bonus content. You can find that at the Show Pod. Send your emails to the Show TV podcast at gmail.com. You can find our YouTube channel, including our YouTube exclusive pre-show cocktail hour at Mandamus Radio. You can find me individually at JSuesponte. Aaron, where can we find you?
On the Muscoverse at Tenacious Aaron.
How about you, Tony?
Find me on Instagram at TPenquite for all your random pictures of cloud needs.
When it's not down. Oh.
Where's your jetpack, Zuckerberg?
Did it go down?
Yeah, Instagram and Facebook went down.
Oh, dang it. I know them Fortnite servers went down for a long time this weekend.
Hackers, man.
Well, you know what never goes down is the show.
I was going to say, China's getting ready to red dawn us.
But if we did, I would tell you exactly what I wanted from you, just so you wouldn't have to figure it out yourself.
Thank you.
Well, while we wait for that invasion, you can listen to the show everywhere podcasts are sold. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Spotify. You can also check out our YouTube channel at Mandamus Radio. Before we dip into our bagels and cream cheese, we must first visit the unofficial scoreboard. This is the part of the show where we share our thoughts on other diversions not selected by the great Wheel of Randomonium. So, boys, what have we been watching? Aaron, anything notable for the unofficial scoreboard?
Well, I have been spreading Managed Democracy in Helldivers 2, which is a fantastic little game with a little Starship Troopers flair. It's very, very fun. It's on PlayStation 5 and Steam, but it's basically kind of like 4-player squad, drop into a planet, do a mission, fight against bugs or automatons, and get out. And you call in like, airdrops and bombing runs and orbital shots and stuff like that, but there's, friendly fire or accidentals as they're called. And it gets crazy. Like, it feels very like if there was a game that could harness Starship Troopers, the movie, it's this game. And the video, like, if you get a chance watching just kind of the promo or the intro video, it's worth it. It's funny. Additionally, I've dropped like 50 hours into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the sequel to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Came out a few years ago. And that has been a phenomenal experience. Just excellent game. So, getting towards the end of it and have enjoyed every minute of it.
Like, great storytelling, great gameplay?
Both. Like, number one, Final Fantasy VII is one of the kind of like legendary RPG stories. But if you go back and look at what it looks like from the 1990s, it's pretty awful. Like, it's right before the graphics kind of take a step up on the PlayStation. Like, if you go look at the difference between like 7 and 8, it's really crazy. But it was a wildly popular story and huge, fandom within the Final Fantasy fans. So I think a couple of years ago they released Final Fantasy VII Remake, which took the first 8 hours of the PlayStation game and turned it into a 40-hour story. And it was fantastic. And the response was so well received that they made a part 2, which is like the next, 40% of the game. And then there's going to be a part 3 that finishes it up. So it's fun gameplay, fun boss fights. This one has like a ton of mini games, racing, shooting, like arcade stuff that you have to do. There's like a trading card game that you have to play against NPCs. But it's a fun RPG. Highly recommend.
Okay. How about you, Tony?
Yeah, I've heard awesome things about Helldivers. I'm waiting to play it. I'm waiting for it to get on Xbox. My gaming group's mainly there. But, what do? I saw Dune 2. Excellent. If you enjoyed the first one, I think you'll really like this one. I guess if you didn't like the first one, I don't think you'll like this one at all. Because it's definitely more of the same. But luckily for me, I enjoyed the first one a lot. And this one was really good, too. I haven't read the books. I guess what happened after the first one, I was like, this is great. So I downloaded the audiobook and had someone read it to me until I caught up with the end of the first movie. And then I also plan on now finishing the audiobook just because, like, I don't want to compare the movies to the books and be disappointed. So it went well the first time around, where I was like, I enjoy the book more having seen the movie and getting more like backstory.
Doing it backwards.
World. Yeah. I'm going backwards on it, but good. I think Frieren, that anime I mentioned last time, is almost done. I think 1 or 2 episodes left. It's kept up the quality. Other than that, I haven't really watched too many shows or seen too many movies.
Have you seen the 80s Dune movie?
The one by David Lynch?
Brought to you by Twin Peaks.
I have not. I hear that one's really good, too. That's it for me.
I've heard mixed things. I've heard mixed things about the 80s Lynchian Dune. Like, it has its fans. But I also think that was not the right pick for that movie. Like, we've got this great idea for this movie called Star Wars. Who could direct it? David Lynch.
Oh my god. Like I'm imagining like James as Han Solo.
Like, number one, the Force.
I don't care about anybody.
The Force is never actually mentioned. Like, they never actually mentioned the Force in David Lynch's Star Wars. Like, it's just inferred from everything that happens.
The training with Yoda is a dream, but it's also real, but it's also a dream at the same time.
Yoda's, like, just a very small person. Like, not an alien. Like, it's one of the guys from... It's the tree. That's that guy. They just have him as Yoda. Oh, man. Jay, what have you been up to?
Been a busy time. Haven't been watching a lot, but one thing I have been watching is a little-known series from the 90s called Home Improvement.
Fantastic.
Oh, is that like a
It's
carpentry show or something?
yeah. It's, if you ever saw This Old House, a little bit like that, but with more power.
Is it like Green Queen? Or Fliplanthropy?
It's been like slipping into a warm bath of just nostalgia because it's
You
not
grew
a
up with
good.
it.
Yeah, it's not a good show because it's so incredibly repetitive.
Yeah.
Rinse and repeat over and over. But I kind of don't care because I just want to get some like vague wisdom from Wilson and learn my lesson and feel good for 22 minutes.
It's
Nothing wrong
definitely one of those ones that you can go back and watch and just enjoy. Like, turn your brain off.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Have you watched Last Man Standing?
I watched a little bit of it.
Definitely. I watched all the way through, even through like the Fox changeover. And it's funny because like they switched over to Fox, and like one of the daughters who had black hair was recast as a blonde. And I just like it's so funny because like Fox News, like 80% of the women they hire are blonde.
Welcome back to Fox News. I'm blonde.
Right.
So it's just funny that it happened that way. But actually, the recast was actually a better choice. But it's worth watching, I think. Like, it's the same level of you don't really have to think, though it's much more political than Home Improvement was.
Yeah, it felt like on Home Improvement, Tim was the kind of almost the foil of the lesson. Like, he needed to be the one who screwed up in order to be told the right way to go. But it felt like in the few episodes of Last Man Standing I watched, they kind of flipped it where like Tim was right and he was going to teach you a lesson.
It rotates. I think the difference is like, in Home Improvement, you're right. Like 99% of the time, Tim is the one who needs to learn the lesson. Whereas in Last Man Standing, each family member could be the subject of that lesson being learned, right? Now, that show also was specifically done at a time to try and give different political voices, in one show, having both left and right in it. Also, the climate of that time period.
Yeah.
So,
There's quite a lot of
Do they drop the hard R's
homophobia.
back in those
Oh,
days? Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
in the 90s, they definitely did.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, call myself out. Ruin my presidential chances, but I mean, that's just what children our age said. We dropped hard R's back in the day.
I mean, I think Michael Scott says it in more than one episode. And that was aughts,
We've improved.
Well, let's bring ourselves up to date. We're here to talk about a very recent show, 2024 offering from Amazon Prime, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. This one is brought to us courtesy of Tony. So tell us about Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yes, as mentioned in your wonderful intro, it's an Amazon Prime show. It came out early this year, 2024. I don't know I guess it's in the same universe. It's based off the 2005, which, man, when I looked at that date, I'm like, man, 2005 movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And it doesn't really follow the same formula, but it is the same formula, is that there's a man and a woman both like spy type assassin characters that are brought together to live and be, I believe, legally married. I think that's what happens in the show. They are married so they can carry out missions more effectively together. And then this show, we followed them from introduction to growing closer to falling apart to maybe getting back together at the end. It's more of a look at their relationship growth and with some humor and action thrown in.
Spy drama meets millennial romance.
Really elaborate online dating ad.
Can I ask a juvenile question?
Yes.
What's the difference between a spy and an assassin? Because in the movie, they seem to be much more out-and-out assassin, while this, we get a little more spy.
Yeah, they're definitely assassins in the movie for sure. Like, I don't think they're not really doing any spy stuff. I just watched the movie, actually, right before the pod. Still
they
good.
were assassins for competing, like, assassin agencies, right? And they were assigned each other as the target, and they, like, decide to, like, spoilers, but they isn't that the premise?
In the movie,
Right.
they're, like, accidentally married to each other, and they don't know that each other are
Spies.
like secret
Or
agent
assassins.
types. Yeah, and then they get their companies find out and send them to the same job so that they'll wipe each other out, and that leads them to finding out, and then kind of like them trying to kill each other, and then also them trying to escape in the movie.
So to answer Jay's question, I think the difference is like an assassin, like makes me think of like, you know, someone who in the dead of night comes and kills you. Whereas like a secret agent, like just if he needs or she needs to kill you, then they're going to, right? Mm-hmm. It felt like Mr. and Miss Smith was a little bit, or at least the show was a bit more kind of like, I guess, third party secret agent, right? Like they were doing
freelancing,
espionage.
like
Freelance espionage, gig work for who only I could assume were the Chinese. At least that's what I think they were probably working for. It's a clever way to do espionage within a different country, set up a business.
And gig work, contract killing, that was that was fun and so sad.
The show was a lot of fun. You do have to suspend disbelief because I think there's both definitely files on both of these people, and they're leaving there's no regard for leaving DNA at the crime scenes at all. Like, they're not getting away with these things. You have to
suspend so much belief. I wrote furious amounts of notes over things that bothered me from a story perspective. Mainly just, you know, as intelligent as both of them are portrayed at the beginning of the show, like sitting in a movie theater with your screen on max brightness, like texting, that is the most obvious thing you could do. Like, I just was sitting there, like, screaming at the TV on that episode. It's like, why are you so fucking stupid? Why, like, this is so stupid right now. Like, I don't know, to me, I really struggled with that suspension of disbelief because, like, when the house blew up and they just start running, I'm like, there's doorbell cameras throughout that wealthy neighborhood. There's no way that, like, they had the camera footage of the Boston Marathon bombers like within hours on every TV in the country. So, like, for me, there were moments where I just was like,
that was a really cool house explosion, though. Like, I don't feel like
amazing.
I've seen anything like that, even on movies, and it really set a good tone for what the show was going to be. I was like, oh man, this is like some intense, like, special effects work going on.
Where the show excelled, in my opinion, were the chase scenes, the action. They were exhilarating. They were fun to watch. And in my opinion, by the time you got to the end, like, the payoffs generally were great. In my opinion, it was the drama where I really struggled a lot in the show.
Yeah, they really just trauma bonded it up after accidentally killing that dude. It's like, it fast forwarded a lot of stuff.
It felt like it was like the stages of a relationship, right? Like, it felt like the show was intentionally the different stages of a relationship. And so at times it didn't feel natural. It felt like it was the next step. I don't know if anyone else got that vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, the way that Shaun of the Dead informally describes itself as a rom-com with zombies, not a zombie movie, a rom-com with zombies. Like, this was a rom-com series with spy stuff.
That's a good way to put it.
And like, yeah, they were like going through the phases of the relationship, where we start with like first date, second date, first trip together. You know, now we're more successful and we buy a vacation house, but we argue about it.
Yeah, I had to appreciate that from the outside, but I assumed that people in relationships would get more out of all of these scenarios or relate to them more.
Well, I mean, Tony, did you enjoy them? Did you not enjoy them? Like, what did you think about them?
I liked them. I could see it being, obviously a truncated, fast-forwarded version of things that could possibly happen, but I enjoyed them. I liked the therapy part. It was pretty good, and all the other stuff too, but I enjoyed watching it.
I think everyone performed it phenomenally. I really struggled liking Jane's character. I struggled with, like, there was just so much about her character I didn't care for. Donald Glover's character felt really inconsistent as a spy, especially with the ending and him being like, I always wanted to give my mom kids, or my dad kids, my grandma kids. And it's like, why would you enter into this?
Job?
Why'd you take this job? Yeah, that
the
literally was the first thing I wrote down. I was like, that feels really inconsistent with what you've chosen to do. Now, her being a sociopath, I was like, okay, now I understand why you were really hard to like throughout the entire thing, is you were just a fucking sociopath. But Donald Glover's character, I was like, this feels like a mismatch.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like, I struggled with some of the pieces coming together as the show came to an end.
Like, they were both supposed to be flawed people whose flaws were hindering the relationship, but it felt like the flaws were uneven. Like, she felt more detrimentally flawed than he did, and that it made it feel unbalanced.
It did get to the point at the end where I started wondering, like, if it was written by a man or a woman or something, like the show, because I'm like, this kind of like, I mean, obviously he takes things not seriously enough, and that leads to them failing a lot, but like, it was definitely like it was definitely putting a lot on her as far as like blame for the relationship falling apart in the show, the way it was written. So I was like, did a dude write this that was dumped by his girlfriend? Or I guess one of the show creators is a woman. So, and I read online Phoebe Waller-Bridge was like attached to this show for a long time with her and Donald Glover, and then I think like creative differences kind of it started trending in a way that didn't involve her anymore. That would have been a good version of the show to see. I would like to see that.
Yeah.
Did you feel that Atlanta played any influence in the filming style at all?
Ooh. No, but tell me more about that.
Well, there were moments, and again, maybe it's just that Donald Glover plays Donald Glover in everything that he does. There were just moments that I was reminded of his character in Atlanta. And maybe it's the caring about his family, his mom, caring about others. But again, him moving his mother to the town where he works, that a lot of those things, like, I was like, what? And I guess you're supposed to. I guess that's why they got, decommissioned. And I will say
they were terrible.
I will say I enjoyed the Sopranos-esque ending, but I think it should have ended whenever the door was breached. Like, they should have not gotten the 3 flashes of light at the end.
That just tells me that they're dead.
I think that's the strong indication.
Yeah.
But I feel like it would have been better if they just done the full Sopranos and just been like door breach and then black. Yeah, I think they died.
Yeah, we start with a different John and Jane being eliminated, and we end there. Like, I think that was probably a pretty deliberate choice by the creators to not leave it ambiguous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like it's a strong indication, but we didn't get a full closeout. It could have been that she killed John, and what's-her-face survived, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is some ambiguity, in my opinion. Did you have a Bobby?
Wagner Mora.
The other John Smith.
Yeah, the other John Smith who gets shot in the eye at the end. Who he played.
He's Escobar, right?
Yeah, he was Pablo Escobar in Narcos, and he was great. And he was great in this. Just so charming.
The triple sneeze was so good.
Like I like how everyone's like, "Oh shit."
What about you?
Ron Perlman, I really enjoyed that episode. I mean, it was definitely like the child episode, but I love Ron Perlman. Anytime I can see Ron Perlman, it's funny. It's fun, and I enjoyed him in that episode. Although, what is his name? John Turturro was so good.
Yes.
Like he was just so damn good.
Great cameos all over the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling Jay I liked Sarah Paulson. I like it when at the very end when they finally leave, she's like, Jesus fucking Christ. She starts smoking.
She hits her vape.
Yeah. She's like, Mommy's working.
I think that might have been the strongest episode.
Oh, therapy?
Yeah.
I would agree.
I liked all the... I think my favorite moments were maybe not my favorite moments, but I really enjoyed all the conversational moments. Like, I liked it when he was bonding with those guys at the card table, and I liked it every time. Like, sometimes at the end of the episode, they're just, like, laughing about something stupid. Like, when she's farting, and he's like, I know you need to fart. Like, just do it. Like, a couple episodes ended kind of in scenarios like that, and those felt really, like, obviously they're scripted, but it felt like non-scripted, like a real moment, like looking in on their lives. Like, could have been real.
I think that's the point. I think that was the effort, was to try and make it feel like a real, authentic couple, right? It's what Jay said though. It's a millennial romance with a bunch of spy stuff injected into it.
I think they sold it. They did convince me. Like with what Tony was saying about some of those little moments, like I think they did have enough chemistry together to carry those happy times.
I don't disagree. I just think that the characters themselves, like their overall construction, suffered.
Yeah, definitely agree. And for me, they lost me pretty quickly, and it was at the bombing in that first episode. Especially because we see them go into the house and we see them interact with like domestic staff who are presumably innocents here. And then we see a news report later saying that how many people died? Was it 9?
I think so.
I don't know if I can watch you bomb at least 8 innocent people and then like really be on your side for the rest of the show.
They did not really care about collateral damage. Or seem to care about collateral damage. Yeah, that's the hardest part of, like, I guess Donald Glover's character, John or whatever. It's like, obviously they got over chopping up a body into a composter enough to joke about it later. But, like, that doesn't really, like, it seems like that character would not be able to get over that.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that would have been a lot more traumatizing for him.
And to hit the suspension of disbelief button, like, I'm not a composting expert, but that's not how a composter works. Like, I don't think you can just stick a body on a New York City roof and be like, oh, I guess it's dirt now. Right?
I'm pretty sure it's not a magic dirt machine.
Yeah.
I mean, the bones wouldn't go away.
Yeah, you just have a decomposing body up there, and that would smell. It's, like, worse than New York City. I mean, that's a pretty ritzy neighborhood. It's probably one of the best smelling neighborhoods in New York City, but it probably still smells like bodies. But
I bet you Paul Dano can still sell it.
Yeah, he can. What are, like, every time I see, I don't know why I care so much, but, like, every time I watch a show like this, I'm like, what is the budget for this show? Like, everything looks amazingly high quality. Like, everyone's clothes and, like, the homes they're in, like, the locations they go to, and like I'm just like looking at their bed, I'm like, that is like linen sheets, but like the $1,000 like linen sheets like on the bed. It's like, but those are real things that someone went and got out for the set of this show. Like, I'm like, how much money did all the sets cost on this stuff? And everything looked so great. Like, all the production value was great on this show, and filming in locations. Like, I feel like if it was green screen, I'd be really super impressed. Like, I feel like they really went to these places.
No, it felt like they were really at Lake Como, you know.
I think I'm finding that it was 275 million.
What? Oh my god! I mean, that makes sense, like, from what we saw. But like, I'm just like, how do these shows get greenlit when there's no way that they're gonna? Like, how can Amazon make that money? Like, didn't Amazon spend $500 million on Lord of the Rings? And this is $250 million.
Yeah, I think so.
Holy smokies! No wonder they keep canceling shows. Like, well, don't go so hard on the most expensive things you can make. But I guess I got to get those subscribers in.
I'm going to go ahead and disclaim I don't know if that was 100% true. It's hard to find information on the internet, but they were saying that like the 2005 film had a $110 million budget and pulled in like almost like 478 million, and that they were looking to see how this was going to do, and it was like a $275 million budget. So I think they spent most of it on the sets and design and the chases and the explosions and stuff like that. Like that, of course, that's why that's so expensive. There's
also a lot of Star Wars quality shooting in this show. Like, you can't just run across an open space and not get hit by a machine gun. I wouldn't think. I don't know much about machine guns, but I'm like, like, you're gonna get at least one. You're gonna get hit once.
Apparently, people are just really, really bad. Have you not ever seen, like, henchmen shoot at people? Like, they basically shoot from the hip.
Yeah, I guess, like, the spy stuff, apart from the bombing at the beginning, it felt almost specifically James Bondy. Mm-hmm. Because, like, James Bond is, like, a kind of, like, a specific niche of spy. With, like, the nice tailored clothes and the Italian ski resort and... Oh, man. I wanted Donald Glover's wardrobe for this entire show.
Yeah, dude has cool clothes.
He was serving some looks.
I don't specifically remember. But also, I don't pay attention to that stuff.
It was a little on the nose in the last episode when Donald Glover was all in white and Maya Erskine was all in black. And they're, like, battling each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little bit like in Lost when John Locke was, like, holding up the backgammon pieces. It's like, one is white and one is dark. It's like, okay. Well, like, I get it, guys.
I mean, wouldn't you say that might be kind of a reference to Spy versus Spy, which is a black spy versus a white spy? Like, the old kind of, like, cartoon or comic book. So I feel like Donald Glover is the kind of person who would put that kind of Easter egg. Right?
That's true. I hadn't thought of that.
So it could be like it's just a contrast thing, but I feel like that makes sense because this is so espionage heavy. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you on the kind of breaking it down that it's very much a James Bond style. Like, it felt like someone watched all the James Bond movies and then was like, what if we had a relationship that just harnessed a bunch of James Bond stuff into it, right? And they did. They just kind of went and did a bunch of James Bond missions. So, you know, running a bomb, you know, intercepting a target, taking out, trying to use truth serum. They just failed. I liked the truth serum follow-up at the end, but the scene with the truth serum was about 5 minutes too long.
It was very long.
It was very long. It was just like, okay, yeah, come on. Let's get to the conclusion here.
Yeah.
The last episode was not what I wanted or expected. And not because of, like, the premise, really, but it's just, like, she's, like, cold and calculating and really smart. And I feel like it would be obvious that was not Donald Glover's style if he was going to try to assassinate her. Like, shooting from a rooftop out of a window or something while she's in the kitchen or something like that. I feel like she would have verified that. And then also, like, Donald Glover, like, never told her that he moved his mom there. So there's, like, not really much of a way she would have known that too, but I don't know. I feel like that part, like, I feel like they would have figured that out if these characters were real, or they would have, like, talked to each other about it more than just, like, immediately. I don't think she would have gone scorched earth and tried to kill him multiple times without trying to figure it out more.
But I think that's the whole problem with the show. That's the same problem I had with the cell phone in the movie theater, is that these characters should be smarter than this. Mm-hmm. these characters should not fall into these tropic traps. They are depicted as being a lot more savvy and able to handle very simple situations, and they get tripped up. So to me, I feel like that's where they're asking too much of me to suspend disbelief, because it just felt like they didn't have to craft a really good spy story. They just had to craft a spy story and then say, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
I don't get the part, like when John and Jane 2.0, extreme high risk versions, show up again. Like, what was the point of the first meeting?
It was an intimidation meeting. They just didn't realize it, right? Like, they'd messed up. They meet John and Jane, which are the ones that do, cleanup. And them sending them off on that other mission, I don't know, that seemed weird as well. I do agree with you. But
I was just like, why? Like, it's not like they got invited into their house at the end as friends or something, and that's what let them get in and get close to them to try to kill them. It's like, no, they just came in the house because it was all torn up, but they broke in. Like, there was no need for them to even have met them at all if this whole thing was all just a big giant plan by Hi. Like, they could have just shown up and killed them at the end without, like, doesn't seem to be like a logical reason for them to even meet in the first place.
No, I thought that Wagner Mora said that Hi told them where they were going to be that day that they met. So there was clearly an intention to have them met. And again, it was after they had messed up, right? So I feel like the point is it was to kind of say, hey, there's no way out. Like, right? Like, that was the thing. Yeah. They were like, oh, we're going to, like, earn this much money and get out. And he was like, ha, 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 if the company worked that way, there is no way out. So I think that this was more of the company sending a message. I also think that, they weren't very good message senders, right? They were happy to have fun and be more authentic with other spies. Because, again, if something goes sideways, they're just going to kill Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
I definitely think they were supposed to die maybe on that.
No, I think that they had 3 strikes, because they said they had 3 strikes.
Yeah. Sending them on that mission, it almost felt like hazing. Like when you make like a work friend who's worked there a lot longer than you have, and they see an opportunity to push off some of their work onto you, and they just say, hey, how about you take care of this one for me? And they kind of take advantage of your greenness.
They Tom Sawyer you and get you to paint the fence.
I thought it was going to turn into something
exactly.
They were obviously a little bit older and they've been doing it longer. Like, maybe they've been taking out, unbeknownst to the company, they've been taking out the Johns and Janes, and also, like, or maybe they were like a little bit jealous. Like, they've been doing it for a while, but maybe like we'd see that their house and their amenities and stuff were like worth less, or maybe even if they're doing more risky stuff, they were getting paid less and less benefits or something like that. I thought that was going to kind of go that way.
I thought their performances were fun, but yeah. I felt like the structure of the company and the objectives was not really apparent.
They didn't want success because they just
kind of
were super vague and like did not give any assistance on making those missions succeed at all.
But perhaps they're expecting you to be able to be, take the initiative, so to speak.
I mean, that's kind of like old school spy story, like where when we have James Bond exposition, it's always just, this is a man in Russia, go kill him, and then Bond has to fill in the gaps.
When one is in Egypt, one should delve deeply into its treasures.
But like here it felt so insufficient.
Well, it's because we live in the age of GPS and fast food and order things on your phone. Whereas, back then they had to go to the library if they wanted to look shit up.
You know what? Maybe that plays into the whole theme of relationships, where it was almost like it was both the relationship between John and Jane, but also their relationship to the company, where the company gives them vague goals, but doesn't give them any assistance, and then punishes them harshly when they don't meet those goals. It's kind of like what an abusive partner does.
I could see Donald Glover making that meta narrative.
Definitely no season 2, though, right?
I wouldn't watch it if they had one.
What if it was like White Lotus and it was anthology new John and Jane?
I would consider. It depends on who they casted. I think that they need to. Again, my biggest problem came down to it felt more. I want a spy show with the romance in it rather than a romance with the spy show. I think that they killed it when they did the spy stuff. But they need to hire some people that are better at writing kind of all of the continuity parts of the show. So, again, maybe I'm just too critical of that aspect of it, but I really struggled with being able to immerse myself into this world because there was so much stuff that I was like, ugh. And maybe it's the fact that it's a drama and not like a sitcom. Like a sitcom, it's very easy to suspend reality, right? That's outrageous. This, I feel like they have billed it to me as something that should be immersive and something that I can kind of say, oh, I see how that could work. And because of the things that the big holes that I ran into, I feel like it prevented me from really being able to fully immerse into it. So if they can kind of resolve that and cast another good, because I think they did these Donglover and I can't ever remember her name. Maya Erskine did a phenomenal job at these roles. I just think that the characters need a better development.
They'd have to really change up the form. I don't think no one would watch another guy and girl spy getting to know each other, falling in love story. I don't like they would have to change up the formula again. Like they would have to already be together like or
two couples. And it'd be like
something.
couples dating or like thing like that, couples friends, and like go through all the weird and crazy things that happen with friends, and they'll just do the exact same thing. But you're right, Tony. That's the problem. It's like they've already done it now. Where do you go from here?
I think the problem is like we're saying all the stuff is so well done. Like it feels so real. Like the special effects. Like I feel like the house exploding like felt real. Like everything feels so real. But it's just like on the parts that don't. It makes the parts that are definitely not real. It makes those stand out more.
Agreed.
Like I was texting Jay. I'm like, there's no way. Like you can have a competent assassin in Jane because she's smart and like she can use like techniques and leverage and stuff like that to her advantage to get the job done. But like she's not outrunning Donald Glover even with asthma on a street in a straight line.
It's Michael Vick.
He's not. There's no way he's not pushing her into a wall once and like collapsing or like taking one hit from him and like fall like mass emotional like she would be damaged. Like this character, like you can have strong women spy assassin characters. Like I feel like there's good movies and shows that do that where it's like it's not like pulling off insane feats of like that's just like she's a tiny woman. Like that's just like the reality of it. Like Donald Glover's bigger than her. Like he would catch her and like destroy her in a physical altercation. Like unless they showed her doing like karate and jujitsu and stuff like that, which she did a little bit of like arm lock stuff, but like no, she's not making it in those situations.
Yeah, he's like Justin Theroux ripped. Like,
how did he get his pecs are so large and so round? I can't stop looking at them every time I see them. I'm like, this is like some sort of genetic marvel over here.
Are we talking about Donald Glover or Justin Theroux?
The hot cop?
Donald Glover.
Okay. Again, didn't pay attention to this one.
Give it a rewatch. It's worth it just for the past.
Man, genetics is a thing, man. I don't think we could get as ripped as... Even if we were as ripped as Justin Theroux, we could not look like Justin Theroux. Same with like Brad Pitt in Fight Club or Troy or something. Like we could... Even if we could get that ripped, we would not look like they look, I don't think. There's like a genetic component to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's called steroids.
Anyway, but that's the kind of stuff is makes it hit harder, like you're saying, Aaron. It's just like when the stuff you have to suspend disbelief so hard. I'm just like, yeah, they're leaving DNA all over the place. And she interviewed for the FBI, I guarantee, fingerprints, DNA, all that's on file. He was in the military, I think. Like all his shit is like in the system. Like you don't even have to be a good, what is a forensic person called? Like, yeah, you don't even have to be good at forensics to like collect the data to say that, hey, these are these people. And like, how are they buying homes in Locoma with the name John Smith? I guess all the other stuff you can pull that off. But
That's exactly the point, is that they didn't even have like some sequence where like they Men in Black burned off their fingerprints, right? These people would have been caught. So that this is where, for me, I really feel like they need to craft this universe better, because I feel like the things that they did in it were fun, exciting, exhilarating. The characters that were doing it, they needed a little bit more work. And maybe that's one of those things where like they weren't intending for it to be taken as serious, like it was to be just this kind of like idea. But I think that's what holds the show back.
I'm always negative when I talk about shows, it seems like, but I did enjoy this one. I liked it. I did like the relationship moments a lot. Thought Donald Glover seemed really authentic. I thought Maya did a good job too, but Donald really sold it.
Shall we give some ratings?
Yep.
I'm ready.
I can lead off. But before I do, what's our rating system going to be? Any object catch your mind?
Marbles in a jar? I don't know.
I was going to say, what about the dead cats?
Maxes?
I like marbles in a jar. I think I might land at 5 marbles in a jar, where I enjoyed the exotic locations that we went to were a lot of fun. The production value was top notch for the action sequences. I really agree with a lot of what Aaron said. I felt a lot of the same things about how I spent too much time thinking about how it didn't make sense, that it didn't hold together. But I think there was some good chemistry between the leads, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. But ultimately, kind of equal on the good and the bad. So I'm going to call this 5 marbles of my sociopathy. How about you, Tony?
Yeah, same. I'm going to go 6. I did enjoy it. I think it's worth a watch. I'd recommend it to people. I don't know. I guess I'll ask y'all, like, what the relationship, like the parts of living with someone and like the fighting, like the fighting, like those types of things. Did those seem like well done and realistic?
Outside of the sociopath reasoning, like, yeah. I feel like, every couple's going to be different. Everyone's going to have different ways of like dealing with things and fighting. And so this was a very specific couple. I think that they did a good job of depicting this type of couple, but and again, like you said, Tony, catching the little moments and things like that, those were the things that they did do right to try and add to the character development or add to the feeling of the show overall. I think that they had some continuity problems. And that's what took away from it and made it harder. I think that's why a lot of us, I think all 3 of us said that we liked the therapy episode, right? Mm-hmm. That episode, because it's the way that the storytelling is done is fun. It's interesting. It progresses through the episode. There's clear body language and symbology in the episode of where they're sitting from each other as the episode progresses. Like, that one is a lot easier to kind of, enjoy. And also the sequences are not that outrageous. Like, there's nothing that you have to really be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is going on.
Do you think it would be better? Because it was like almost like an entire failed marriage in 8 episodes, like from start to finish. Like, would have been better if it was like them actually falling for each other. Like, at the end is like they realize that they really love each other, and that was the ending. Like, the start was the same start, but the ending was like them like getting to the part where they say I love you, instead of like literally every single part of like people falling in love and falling apart and then all that stuff.
Maybe.
I guess the episode structure would have been a lot different, but
I feel like
a very different story.
I feel like the Pretty Pink Bow is not as popular, and especially for millennial age. Like, there's quite a bit of content that pokes fun at how much millennials have gone through from the housing collapse to COVID. To me, I feel like there's a certain master gesture of that generation, of this generation's kind of look on things. I don't know. Also, like, divorce and things like that were really high during the pandemic. So coming out of the pandemic, maybe, that's something that's on people's minds.
Yep. Sorry for the tangent.
Get your
rating.
Yeah, good.
So am I the only one left, right? I'd probably
how
say
many marbles?
5.5 marbles.
Ooh, I know what the average is.
Yeah, it's easy math here. Because the show had lots of components that are good, well done. The money was there, the action was there, the sequences were exhilarating. But again, cohesion, continuity, suspension of disbelief, those things took too big of a toll on my ability to enjoy the show at the level that I would watch. I wouldn't watch it again, but I would say, like, hey, if you like, a romance with action, this might be something worth checking out. So I wouldn't tell people don't watch it.
Wait, Tony, how many did you have?
6.
6. Okay. Just checking.
Yeah, I think it was 5, 6, and 5.5.
So
yeah, I think it's right at 5.5.
5.5.
Hashtag they did the math.
We're that high.
I'm glad I like the direction they took it based on the movie, because the movie was just like these one accidental couple that happens to be married that both also happen to be like spies/assassins. I kind of like the direction they took it, where like people are being put together in couples to accomplish missions, and there's multiple versions of it. I kind of feel like that really expanded the universe.
I agree with you. I like that take on this premise a lot better than the movie. But and the movie, I hear my dad also watched it recently, because he watched the first episode and he was like, this is weird. I'm going to go back and watch the movie instead.
It's a fun, I just watched it and I was like, it started off and I was like, this isn't as good as I remember it being, but it really, I'm not saying it's an amazing movie or anything, but kind of in the middle and towards the end, it really kind of like picks up and gets better. So if you do watch it, I guess don't take the first like 15 or 20 minutes for the whole thing. It's like 2005. I didn't realize what year it came out. 2005. And I'm like, you can tell it was 2005 when you watch it, because I was like, man, these laptops are ginormous. Even in 2005, like it's crazy. Like when you see the 1990s and 90s laptops, where there's just like a giant Encyclopedia Britannica laptop thing. But like even these ones, which were like sophisticated spy tech, they're just like so thick.
Well, 5.5 puts this show at about the top of the bottom quarter. It's tied with first season of The Witcher, just under Warrior Nun, just above the Umbrella Academy.
Did you say Warrior Nun is higher than Umbrella?
We put Warrior Nun over The Witcher season 1?
Yeah, I really didn't
Jay
like The
tanked
Witcher.
that one. Jay definitely hard tanked that one. But I was going to say, the Warrior Nun, I have to ask, like, do you have the math on that one still? How did that one stay so high? Because I feel like that was universally panned by everyone but Adam.
Well, that you might have answered your own question.
Oh, you're right. Adam just gave it a 10. He's like, it's so good.
I didn't hate it. Like,
No.
what's her name? Alba Baptista, Chris Evans' wife. Like, I mean, I'd watch the season for her. She's pretty.
You can watch it for her, but that doesn't make it good, Tony.
Aaron and Adam. I'm sorry. I've got that as Tony. That Adam wasn't even on.
I think it was me. It must have been me. I boosted up the score.
Was you, Tony? I don't know why.
I was
Maybe
definitely
Adam
there.
recommended it to me. I feel like Adam recommended it to me, and we put it on the show. I don't know. I feel like.
Yeah, Adam was definitely still on it. Oh, I'm sorry. That was during the era when we had both Adam and Tony.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was a short period.
So we got 6s from both Tony and Aaron, and a 6.5 from Adam on Warrior Nun.
We were nicer back then.
Yeah.
We need some sort of like formula to kind of like boost our later scores or like degrade our earlier scores or something. Probably
We need to go up to 20, is what you're saying? We need a level cap boost.
I think it's just natural. Like the more we do, the higher our standards are going to get. Like we're going to start rating things lower that maybe we would have like rated higher. I mean, y'all have done more than me too, but this is like 67. I'm sure we're a lot more critical at 67 than we were at 15.
This is what we do. We go back and we think about our score, and based off of this new rating scale, we just retcon and dub over like the scores when they come out. It's like what was your score, Aaron? It's a 7. It's a 3.
I like it.
I'm going to give this one 7 cherry tomatoes. You just score your score. Just give your score a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Just go back. Be like, hey, that was a good
reliable.
score.
This is not reliable. Well, are we ready for the wheel?
Let us approach the Wheel of Randomonium.
Alrighty, let's see.
I bow before its power.
Here on the show, we strive for egalitarianism. So to select our next show, we each nominate a prospective show to watch. We put them on the Wheel of Randomonium, and the wheel tells us.
So we have, for this offering, I have brought Sovereign Reigns on Max. It is a show that I watched like 30 seconds of the preview. The artwork looked really interesting. It looked kind of anime meets Western animation. I'm not quite sure, but it had a pretty cool aesthetic. Tony, what have you got?
I've got the newest season of True Detective. I think it's called Night Country or something like that. But it's the 4th season in the HBO, I guess now known as Max, detective show. It takes place I've watched a few episodes of it already. It's in Alaska. And similar to the first season, it seems to have like some, like, is this supernatural or is it not? Which, spoiler alert, you do find out in season 1 if it was or not. But we'll see how it works out in season 4.
It was just meth, right?
It just like wasn't. I think the supernatural stuff was like hallucinations by a mind that had done hard drugs for a long amount of time. But
that's what I remember. It was very good, but yeah, that's what I remember. Jay, what about you?
I have nominated a show from the 90s called Becker. It was a CBS sitcom starring the great Ted Danson, where he's he's like a curmudgeonly doctor who hangs out in a bar. Or maybe it's a cafe or something. I don't remember. But I watched it as a kid. I don't think I've watched it since I had a CRT television. It's available on Pluto TV for all of you astronauts out there. So put that on your wheel.
I think he does hang out at a cafe called Central Perk or something like that.
Wow.
A very specific cafe.
In New York.
All right, well, let's shuffle it up and spin to win.
Let's spin the McConaughey wheel.
All right.
We are spinning, and it's Sovereign Reign.
Nice.
Scavenger's Reign. What did I say?
It's Sovereign's Reign. I'm pretty sure it's Sovereign's Reign. It's
There's too many vowels in that Sovereign, right?
I don't know.
Isn't like EIGN, I think. SOV.
I tried to copy it off the internet.
Oh, maybe that is right. That just looks weird. Words, you'll ever have those mind moments where it's just like a word looks completely foreign, but you've used it your whole life.
I would blame me if it's misspelled, but there definitely was a situation where I like typed it really quickly and was like, "Is this it?" and copied and pasted it from the Google. So
no, it happens to me with easy words.
There is an extra E in there. It's because the fucking Reddit post on this misspelled it.
No, okay, so it's
like Sovereign Reign, like
it's on
you're
Max?
reigning.
Yeah, Sovereign Reign on Max.
No, it's definitely Scavenger's Reign.
Okay, well that's another reason why. Is that literally I'm looking at the post like Sovereign Reign on Max is excellent, and then edit underneath is Scavenger's Reign. I think I was a victim of spell check, so it is Scavenger's Reign.
After their deep space freighter is damaged, the stranded crew of the Demeter must fight to survive on a beautiful yet dangerous planet.
We had Scavenger's Reign last time written in there, and when I typed it in, Sovereign's Reign came up on the Reddit post under science fiction. So I was like, oh, I have misspelled it, so let me just fix that. The funny thing is, like, I also have the Chat GPT, and it was like, oh, we haven't found anything about this show on HBO.
No, I just want to make sure I'm not watching the wrong show, and then I sound like an idiot in the next episode.
Nope, I already sound like the idiot.
That is not true.
Never.
Untrue.
So, Scavenger's Reign. And that's a lot easier to say than Sovereign's Reign. I was looking at that, I was like, that's really dumb to have rain and rain.
Man, people love to name ships Demeter, don't they?
Yeah, it's a popular ship.
It's definitely not the first Demeter ship. I think Dracula. The ship that brings Dracula is the Demeter.
It's the
I feel like
Demeter,
that's not
yeah.
the only one.
It might be because it comes from Europe and they're on the metric system, instead of.
It's Demeter, not Demile. Who is Demeter's the goddess of the earth, right? Like in Greek mythology or something.
Of the harvest, agriculture, over food and fertility on earth.
She's Persephone's mom, I think, right? That's why she gets the winters, because she's sad because Persephone has to go down to the underworld or something. And she comes back in the spring. It's been a while since I've had a
Greek mythology
class, on ancient Greek
I was going to say, did you get
mythology.
that from Greek mythology or did you get that from God of War? So
Same thing. So I learned about Nordic gods. The new God of War.
There's this story I remember reading where these kids go on a trip to Israel and they get lost, and this one kid's like, "Oh, I know where the church that we need to meet up is," and he leads them all the way there. And the teacher was like, "How did you know how to get here?" He's like, "Oh, I played Assassin's Creed, and I remembered where this was in the game." And I remember Assassin's Creed 1 had a replication of Jerusalem from the 1300s in it, street by street. So he actually did know where it was based off of the game.
Yeah, they actually
You
put a
can't
lot of
learn
time
things.
into that stuff. I don't really play Assassin's Creed, but I played Odyssey, which is the ancient Greek one, and
It was so good.
yeah, the locations. I think there's even a history mode where you can tour the sites. And it's kind of supposedly how it used to be back in the day, all colorful and I think all these marble statues and stuff were actually maybe not the marble ones, but I think a lot of statues and stuff were
No, you're
painted
right.
bright colors and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is definitely true. They used to all be painted. Paint doesn't last as long as we realize it does. It definitely
Not as long as
fades.
marble.
Apparently not. Yeah, not as long as rock. So,
No sculpt.
well, we're gonna be watching Scavenger's Reign and seeing if this is this an American animation. It looks kind of anime style. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see what we can scrap together for next time.
Heyo, I see what you did that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a lot of fun talking about Mr. and Mrs. Smith with my Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Thank you, boys, for joining me today. I'm looking forward to next time.
Awesome.
Always a pleasure.
Until then, I will be seeing you. Oh, no, wait, hold on. Before, we have big news to announce. I'm so sorry to leave this until the very end. But we have something very special coming up for our audience. Not in the next episode. That's just going to be a regular level of specialness when we talk about Scavenger's Reign. But after Scavenger's Reign, we are going to be bringing you the second ever megasode of the show.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be talking about one of the best shows ever made, maybe the best show made in the 21st century, one of the favorite shows of the three of us. We're going to be talking about the 2014 HBO masterpiece, The Leftovers. We're going to be celebrating 10 years since the release of that show in June of 2014. So we're going to be releasing that in June of this year. So be looking for that in your podcatcher of choice. I'm so very excited about that.
Yeah, be watching for it because, you're going to need your doggy bag for these leftovers.
Get your glass Tupperware out or whatever.
Yeah,
glass,
get your Tupperware. You're going to want to put this episode on ice.
All right. Well, smoke them if you got them. And thank you to our executive producer, Dick Wolf. We'll see you next time.